Good evening. Well, tomorrow, as if you didn't know, is the start of the 1974 World Cup. And here in Britain, our hopes rest with the Scots. How high should our hopes be tonight? Indeed, can Scotland do it?
Oh, definitely.
No, they take it too much like a holiday, I feel.
Well, an awful lot would depend on the first game, I think. I think we'd have to beat Zaire pretty comfortably to get the confidence to beat Brazil and possibly Yugoslavia.
No, honestly, I can't see us winning our section.
Yeah, you might win against there, that's about all. I think we need Jim Baxter and Steele.
You need to ask my husband that. I don't know anything about football.
No, you've got good forwards and that, good defence, with some good results, so I should think they should be able to do it.
No, much as I'd like to see it, I don't think there's really much chance.
They've got the talent behind it, as well as the ability, and it's just determined and stop the carry on. Of course, they'll win the World Cup.
My name's Mackay, so I'm Scottish through and through. And I want to see them winning, but I don't know.
I think they'll get beat.
Oh no, I
hope so. I hope they win, but I think I'll get beat a bit.
Oh, you're away, you're dead.
I'm beaten.
The views from the heart of Glasgow. But the World Cup, of course, spreads much wider than Scotland. And in Germany tonight, the 16 finalists are bedded down in their training camps. Red-hot favourites, rank outsiders, established stars, and those who are looking to this fantastic competition to make their names. And what an audience will be watching them. They say that the potential viewing audience around the world will be between 400 and 600 million people per game, with the pictures from Germany being beamed to 91 countries, truly a worldwide festival. Well, in the next hour, we're going to mark your cards about a variety of things to make the World Cup just a little more enjoyable for you, perhaps. In the course of this hour, our ITV panel will be popping in with their views as well. But first of all, let's get down to basics. The 16 finalists who are drawn into 4 groups of 4. Remember, each country plays the other 3 in its group, and 2 from each group qualify for the second round, which this time will be also on a league basis. The winners of those 2 groups in the second round play each other in the final. This time, in other words, no knockout quarterfinals and no semi-finals. This is Group 1. We have Chile, West Germany, East Germany and Australia. Group 2, the one we're really interested in, there with Scotland, Yugoslavia, Brazil and the African champions Zaire in with them. Group 3 now, Holland, Uruguay, Sweden and Bulgaria. And in Group 4, Haiti, Italy, Poland and Argentina. Well, first of all, let's look more closely at the form of Scotland and their opponents that they meet in Group 2. Now, it's not often that Scotland have punched their weight at international level, but last month against England at Hampden Park, they really got together and gave everyone the feeling that they might just surprise a few people in the World Cup. They beat England 2-0. Scotland are in the dark shirts.
Wellington gives the ball away. Shot is going to come fast, and the shot is on for Jordan, and it's in. It's an own goal, in fact, by Petchik, but it's counts. Johnston trying to turn against Petchik. Now Lorimer. That was handball. Douglas in, and it's a goal. Well, that was a remarkable goal.
And from Hampden, Scotland embarked on a warm-up programme that took them first of all to Bruges for a match against the Belgians. The Scots are again in the dark shirts. Scotland contributed to their own downfall after 24 minutes. Jimmy Johnston loses the ball in the middle of the field there, and Scotland never get it back. It comes out finally here to the number 11, Henrote, and his shot goes just ahead of Gordon McQueen and into the Scottish goal. But it was McQueen himself with this free kick just before half-time that leads the way to the Scottish equaliser. Pio under pressure only half punches it away. Quick wits and a bit of skill there from Jimmy Johnston, and that makes it 1-1. That's how it stayed until the last few minutes of the game, when Belgium got a penalty. There, when Kenny Dalglish goes in on Paul van Himst. The Scots weren't terribly happy with that penalty. The referee had no doubts at all in his mind, though. And now you're going to see one of the most violent penalty kicks you're ever likely to see, scored by Lambert. 2-1 to Belgium. And from there, they moved on to Oslo for a meeting with the part-timers of Norway. And now Scotland are wearing the white shirts. In pouring rain, Scotland fall for a sucker punch. The long kick by the Norwegian goalkeeper, their defence in total disarray now, and Lund it is who scores for Norway with just 17 minutes gone. The sort of goal that they dare not give away in the World Cup. And that's the way it stayed until the last quarter of an hour. Billy Bremner with a free kick, Joe Jordan there with a header, and that makes it 1-1. And it was just 5 minutes from the end that the same combination led to the equaliser. Again, it's a Billy Bremner free kick. Again, he finds the head of Joe Jordan, and this time it's Kenny Dalglish at the post there, who nods it in to give Scotland the victory. And from there, manager Willie Ormond and his men moved on to their headquarters outside Frankfurt. It's the third time Scotland have reached the World Cup finals, and so far they've yet to win a game in these final stages. In 1954 in Switzerland, they had a terrible time, which included a 7-0 hammering by Uruguay. And a little curiosity here is that the number 11 for Scotland that day was Willie Ormond. And as we take up that story, you'll see him in a moment in that number 11 shirt.
In light shirts meet Scotland at St Jacob's Stadium in Bow. 45,000 spectators are gathered for this World Cup tussle and soon get a taste of things to come as Uruguay give the Scotsmen a scare near their goal. Again, Uruguay attack. Out to Borges. Cunningham misses the tackle and... Now Scotland get moving, keeping the ball well down to earth. Alan Brown collides with the goalie and the defender's there long before a Scotsman's on the scene. Uruguay take over now and a clever bit of work beats Mackenzie as they make for the Scots goal. Miguez, with no one to mark him, bang! Borges dashes in from the wing. It looks too easy the way they do it. Uruguay are soon leading by 6-0. And can you wonder at it when they can play football like this? Abadi receives. Martin doesn't have a chance as on he goes to put the ball into the net. 7-0. A score that Scotland won't forget for a long time.
But of course, Scotland's troubles weren't only on the field in 1954. Their manager, Andy Beattie, resigned on the morning of that particular match. And in 1958, the Scots went to the finals in Sweden without a manager. Well, they've had their troubles off the field this time as well, as we know. Before the England game at Hampden, Jimmy Johnston was involved in an early morning boating escapade after a victory the previous night against Wales. There's been a long-running problem over what the players can expect to make from commercial ventures leading up to this World Cup. Skipper Billy Bremner and Jimmy Johnston were involved in an incident in a bar in Oslo and came close to being sent home. And one pressman, John Mackenzie of the Daily Express, was banned from flying with the Scottish party after a row with Scottish officials. So, not the happiest of preparations. But now we get the latest news from the Scottish camp in Germany with our reporter Hugh Johns. He asked, first of all, manager Willie Ormond how the injury problem was going.
Well, we've had one or two injuries along the line with McGrain and Jardine, the two fullbacks. Holton, I have never considered as an injury, except the time it did break down, but he recovered very quickly after the injection he got. Peter Lorimer and Jim Stewart, they had the tummy upsets, and they're okay now. Everyone in the camp is perfectly fit.
Good. What about the mood of the squad now? You've had unpleasantnesses, of course, on this recent tour in Belgium and Norway. What is the mood of the squad at the moment?
I think the mood of the squad is very good. They were a bit disappointed regarding press relationship regarding the incidents. I think the press were a bit rough on them because these boys have behaved themselves very well. Any time we've had a little bit of trouble has been after a game when they are free to do as they like, but also look after themselves and report in a fit condition. But no, I think the press was a bit unfair to us at that time, and we were hoping that they'll let us go on with the game now. Yeah. And I'm sure that the boys they're responding in the way that I want them to respond.
A lot of the teams in the World Cup have somehow been affected by pool perks and sponsorship and that sort of thing. What's the situation as far as Scotland's concerned?
I don't think there's any effect as far as the playing side of it's concerned. There's certainly, just like the rest of these countries, we've had their problems. The boys naturally are trying to get the best from themselves out of the World Cup. You're only in it once, maybe, or twice in 8 years, so they're going to make the best of it. Sometimes I think maybe they're a bit asking for too much, and then again I think they ask for too little. But no, I think every country in the World Cup at the moment is having their problems in that way.
Your first game against Zaire, what do you know about them?
Well, I watched them for a week in Cairo. I've seen them play 3 times, and they are a useful side, they're a good side, but I don't think they're strong enough for a European type of game.
You mean physically strong or stamina, as it were?
Stamina-wise, I would say more so stamina-wise. They run off the ball pretty well up front, but they follow the ball, they don't cover a man. You know, they let the man run off, they can let him use an open space if he wants. But I feel that Brazil, Yugoslavia and ourselves, we should take Zaire, and I think it'll be a fight between Brazil and ourselves for the other place.
Well, soon all the talking will be over and the playing will begin. Let's take a closer look now at Scotland's three group opponents. Remember, they start in this stadium in Dortmund this Friday against Zaire, the stadium that was modernised for the World Cup. The crowd will be fenced in and the capacity is 54,000. So Zaire, the African qualifiers, are the first hurdle. That's on Friday. We should be going over there at 7 o'clock live on ITV. The following Tuesday, it's the world champions Brazil in Frankfurt. We should be going over at 7 o'clock live on ITV. And on Saturday week, Scotland against Yugoslavia, again in Frankfurt. We start at 3 o'clock, again live on ITV. First then Zaire. Formerly they were the Belgian Congo. The bookmakers make them a 200-to-1 shot. They are known as the Leopards. And although they're amateurs, they're used to playing in front of 90,000 crowds. Their bonus for getting to Germany for each player was a house, a car, and a round-the-world trip for two. Zaire are champions of Africa. And this is how Zaire won the African Cup. In Cairo against Zambia. Ndaya scoring their first goal, a prolific goal scorer in Zaire, and in fact he scored both goals in this final. The second one came after a nice little bit of build-up, some determination there as the darker-shirted Zaire players win possession. Combining well here, he takes that pass well, and again he knows the way to goal. So that's how Zaire beat Zambia by 2-0 to win the African Cup, and that was pretty clear-cut. The only problem came is when they came to present the cup to Kidumu, the captain. Takes it well enough from the dignitaries, but now watch this. As he raises it aloft with everybody around the Cairo stadium applauding, that happens. But I suppose he can say at least the World Cup hasn't got a lid. So what's the latest news then from the Zaire camp? Gerald Sinstadt went there earlier today.
Ascherberg is no more than a village beginning to outgrow itself. Its virtue is that it lies roughly halfway between Hanover and Dortmund, where Zaire will play their matches. It's a surprise suddenly to encounter the vivid green and yellow flag that flies outside the Jagdschloss. It's a corner of a foreign field that's not forever Zaire, but is exclusively theirs this month. And the Africans don't look or feel out of place here. Their own cook is due to arrive any time now, but for the past 10 days the players have mostly settled happily for food the hotel would offer any of its guests. Training facilities are about 10 miles away, so twice daily the bright green and yellow coach takes an anything but unobtrusive excursion through the lush Westphalian countryside. It makes an apt setting for trainer Vidinic to nail once and for all those colourful stories about Zaire as the World Cup's wide-eyed country cousins.
So many journalists is going to give wrong information about team of Zaire. No, I feel very happy about this. Yeah, please.
What did you think about Scotland when you saw them in Oslo?
Scotland is very good team. It have very, very big players. It have very good organization. It's going to play here in a role very, very important in this competition.
In general, the squad is serious and a bit withdrawn. Among the probable stars is Kazadi, the goalkeeper, Zaire's most capped player, approaching his 50th international. Last year, journalists from 21 countries made Kazadi runner-up in a poll for Africa's Footballer of the Year. The winner was his younger brother, Wanga Shimen, a player who comes to Germany with the challenging label of the Black Beckenbauer. At the training ground, Vidinic is tapering off a routine geared to stamina building.
À partir du gardien jusqu'à ailier gauche.
4 years ago, this talented Yugoslav nursed another African side to the World Cup finals. Then it was Morocco, a team with a tendency to run out of steam in the last third of a game. Now, with Zaire, Vidinic can build on a basic gift of speed. Not for nothing do they call themselves the Leopards. Winger Kakoko, their leading scorer in the qualifying rounds with 6 goals in 10 games, is said to have once run down a zebra. So, as far as I can judge, what we have here is a team more sophisticated in its approach and preparation than many of us had perhaps expected. But though it may produce 1 or 2 outstandingly gifted individuals, there's no authoritative evidence that collectively Zaire will trouble either Brazil or Yugoslavia. If I hesitate to include Scotland in that judgment, It's more because of the unpredictability of Scotland than the unknown quantity of Zaire.
Let's take that up, Brian Clough. Do Zaire pose any sort of problem for Scotland, do you think?
They pose them the problem because it's the first match in the competition, obviously, and Scotland will have a lot of pressure on it. They know they have to win to get themselves off to a good start and set themselves up for Brazil. So the nerves will be there. Unless Scotland get away to a good start early in the game, a lot of tension could creep in.
Willie Ormond suggested that Zaire might be a bit short on stamina.
Yeah, well, that's inevitable, obviously, with their African background. Constitution-wise, they won't be that strong. I'm sure they're skillful, and they're very, very keen, but if the stamina goes, then the skill will go also.
In a word, you would back Scotland?
Well, obviously, you have to take Scotland. They'll need somebody to run down Joe Jordan like somebody caught that zebra, because I think he will cause the problems.
There we are. So can Scotland do it? Against Zaire, we, or at least Brian, think they can. But the next opponents will be Brazil. That's next Tuesday, remember. Brazil, the most exciting team in the world, perhaps, who won the World Cup in Mexico in 1970 with these goals against the Italians in the final.
Facchetti following that number 7. There he is. Facchetti following the number 7. Here's Zeno, wherever he goes. Here's Zeno. Faced by Facchetti. Here goes Gerson. Aiming into the box for Pele, and he's in behind him. His goal-to-game record going. Oh, it's not a bad ball for Pele on the right side. It's Carlos Alberto.
Here's Zeno, raiding from his old right wing spot for this just one time. Paulo Cesar, lovely shot, and what a goal. That's what football's about.
Brazil clearly then will be as exciting to watch as ever. It's amazing to realise what a turnover they've had in the past 4 years. Pele, Tostão, Gerson have all gone. Indeed, only 3 players from that World Cup final of 1970 are likely to be in the forefront this time. They are Rivellino, Giazzino and the defender Piazza. They were training with the new Brazil when our cameras joined them in Germany. Brazil have been working out in the Frankfurt Stadium in a fairly relaxed fashion, watched by several hundred intrigued West Germans. Most eyes have been on Paulo Cesar and, of course, Rivellino, but most of their skills have been kept under wraps. It's been a similar easygoing atmosphere at the Brazilians' training headquarters, and it's from there that our reporter, Hugh Johns, now reports.
The Brazilians are searching for that spirit and the formula that will win them the World Cup again in a secluded country hotel high on a hillside about half an hour's drive down the motorway from Frankfurt. As usual, they've shut themselves in and the public out. A newly built 7-foot fence rings the entire hotel, and it's constantly patrolled by police armed with binoculars, walkie-talkies and machine guns. Press and TV men get limited visiting times, but the eager German fans can do no more than peep under and over the fence. Inside is the Brazilian army that hopes to march on Munich, and that includes a 32-strong medical staff alone. But you don't see them. The players are all they parade, and again, they're pretty relaxed. Language is something of a barrier to many of the world's journalists, but this magazine doesn't need translating. Renato, the reserve goalkeeper, is the man studying form. A tracksuit doesn't disguise the muscular physique of Valdemiro, the long-striding winger. A lot of interest is shown in the blonde-haired Marinho, the attacking fullback on the left flank of the back four. On the steps of the hotel, first-choice goalkeeper Leao takes a break from the interviews, as do the mustachioed Alfredo, a central defender, and also one of the 3 Cesars in the team. The best known of the Cesars is, of course, the bearded Paulo Cesar, one of the 1970 Mexico squad, who, with Rivellino, will start and maybe even finish most of the Brazilian attacks. It's traditional to have a chimney sweep at a wedding for good luck, and maybe the Brazilians will look on this local character as a lucky omen. Certainly the coal-black and portly figure of Mario Amerigo, the world's best-known sponge man, shook with obvious pleasure when he greeted Brazil's newest fan.
Brazil have the skill and flair to win the World Cup. Their preparation and security precautions, as usual, have been immaculate. But they may have internal team problems. They've certainly lost some key players through injury, and they've got no Pelé. And to cap it all, they've got to play what they consider to be their hardest game in the group first. So that match against Yugoslavia will show the world whether Brazil is in the right mood to win the new World Cup. But according to their legendary trainer, Mario Amerigo, there are no doubts at all. This is his forecast of that first game.
5-0 aqui, ó. Aqui, ó. 5-0.
Pat Crerand, you saw Brazil in Switzerland last week. Do Scotland really have a chance against them?
I would like to think so, but I don't think so, Brian. I think their forwards are far too strong. I know some people complain about the Brazilian defence, but their forwards take that much away from their defence. They put that much pressure on the other defence that they don't let anyone get at their own defence.
You came back from Switzerland raving about them coming forward, but you mentioned their weaknesses in defence. We've got an example of this because it was the match in Bâle. In fact, the Swiss scored twice against Brazil. This is an example of what you regarded as Brazilian weakness in defence.
Yeah, this was another cross from the right. There was quite a few crosses came from here, actually, and there was a lot of indecision in defence between the two middle defenders and the goalkeeper. And the boy steps in and puts it away. But I think one of the things, Brian, about that, it was a friendly match. You know, and it was, the defence wasn't as strong. Maybe they weren't tackling as hard as possibly they can.
Jet, put your hand on your heart then. Is it Scotland?
I say Brazil. I think Brazil could get to the final. They could win the competition again.
So can Scotland do it? Clearly there are doubts about them against Brazil, which will probably leave their final group match against Yugoslavia on Saturday week as the most crucial one of all. Yugoslavia got to this World Cup after a playoff game against Spain, and this was just a couple of months ago in Frankfurt.
The curling one's come away from here, and it's in there eventually. Katalinski, the scorer.
And their most recent match, of course, was against England in Belgrade. It finished 2-2, and these are the two Yugoslav goals.
Abdic. Cross ball, Watson away. Bell giving it away to Petkovic. But Shuriak. Good cross. Chance on Petkovic has equalised. Petkovic gets it 1-1. Jajic again. Got to watch these crosses. Hachimovic asked Oblak. And a beautiful goal! What a goal from Oblak! Oh, wasn't that a screamer!
Indeed. Well, we've had an ITV man in the Yugoslav camp as well this week, and it's from there now, that Gary Newbon reports.
Yugoslavia, here at their training centre at Neu-Isenburg, have been spending the week trying to live up to their new rating as the leading dark horses. They've been deliberately confusing their opponents in this group, particularly the world champions Brazil. In practice matches, for instance, Yugoslavia have only been playing a few of their first-choice players, and they haven't had any numbers on their shirts, and they haven't been playing in the right positions. Yugoslavia know only too well that they must get a very good result against Brazil in the opening match, because they argue, this is Yugoslavia, a draw will only help Scotland and to improve their chances. So, in recent international and practice matches, Yugoslavia have been playing with caution. Bacevic, one of several highly rated strikers, for instance, has been playing in the warm-up games, although he's suspended for the Brazil game, but he'll be back to play against Scotland. However, Oblak's appetite for playing has alerted spying Brazilian eyes to his shooting skills. Oblak, a midfield player with endless energy, revealed his striking ability with a goal that shook England in the recent international at Belgrade. 21-year-old Ivan Shuriak is also worrying the other teams in Group 2. For Shuriak, with his speed, strength and shooting skills and ability to cross the ball, could, like Oblak, emerge as one of the big names in this World Cup. Katalinski, one of the big defenders at the back, may, it's felt, run into trouble with the referees for his fierce tackling. But the Yugoslavs feel that they can read the situation and adapt. They say that they intend to tackle as hard as they're permitted. The manager, Milan Milanic, is aware of how Katalinski and his first-choice goalkeeper Maric were caught by England's cross balls. He believes now that he's sorted it out, but he's still concerned about Scotland's Joe Jordan. After the World Cup, Milanic will be flying out to Spain to sign a 2-year contract worth £500,000 to manage Real Madrid. And he'll take with him Dragan Zajac, the Yugoslav captain. Zajac is one of the world's top wingers, and Scotland will soon know all about him.
Malcolm Addison, you went to that playoff match against Spain that put Yugoslavia through. You've fancied Yugoslavia ever since. Do Scotland have a chance against them?
Well, Scotland have a chance, yes, because you know, Scotland are a strong side, physical side, but I think that they're probably one of the best disciplined sides that have been in the competition, Yugoslavia. and I think their coach is an excellent coach, and they've got some excellent forwards. And young midfield player Oblak, who scored a great goal against England, is also a great player.
One of the forwards is young Suyak, who's a fellow who impressed you very much, I think.
Yes, he's a 21-year-old, he's a 6-foot striker, and he's a natural left-sided player, but you'll see him here. Here he is here. He always wants to go forward, which is a great point for a forward. He's about 6 foot tall, he's very good in the air, and he crosses excellent balls from both sides. There's a little cross in there to Dajic. There's a situation now where you see him beat Watson. He goes down the right side this time, takes him on again, attacks the dead ball line, a beautiful flighted cross here, and there you see Petrovic all by himself, just knocks it in the back of the net, and that's England down again, 2-1.
Paddy's got serious doubts about Scotland matching Brazil. You have serious doubts too about them matching Yugoslavia.
Well, I think that Yugoslavia and Brazil are going to be two of the best sides in the competition. So Scotland have got a terrific job. If they qualify, then they've got a great chance.
Great. Well, there we are. There seem to be worrying doubts among our experts who feel that Brazil and Yugoslavia will know just a little too much for Scotland. But we haven't really taken a dispassionate look at Scotland themselves, and who better to do that for us than Sir Alf Ramsey, who for 11 years as England team manager had the annual job of assessing the Scottish strengths and weaknesses. Sir Alf, do you share those worrying feelings of Paddy and Malcolm about Scotland against Yugoslavia and Brazil?
Not particularly. I think the important thing is that the Scottish team play as well as they do, as they did against England. I think they did extremely well in that match, and if they can introduce the same sort of feeling, the same sort of atmosphere, the same attitude, then there's no reason at all why they shouldn't challenge Yugoslavia and Brazil.
And yet they seem to be some way from recreating that spirit that we saw at Hampden Park, judging by press reports at any rate.
Well, they seem to have had a good number of troubles, judging by what one has heard and what one has read. But I'm certain that the matches now are starting, and it would seem that if they can settle down to formulate consistent understanding and the organisation of their team, then I feel sure that they will stand a better chance than they may have done if the troubles had continued.
Can you see a way that Willie Ormond can turn those troubles to his advantage, to motivate his men, that people say we've got no chance, let's show them? Is that the sort of way that you might go at it?
It could well be, but I think most certainly he's got to have the confidence of the players, and this is done by discipline, most certainly understanding, and also by creating a team formation whereby the players feel that they're going to be successful. Looking at the Scotland team against England in particular, one was a little aware of the fact that they appeared to be weak in the centre of their defence, and I think probably David Hay will be given the job as an anchorman in front of the defence, bearing in mind that both fullbacks are not only very good footballing fullbacks, but also go forward. I would like to see David Hay as the anchorman in midfield, supported by possibly your Hutchinsons, your Morgans, or Bremners, and Dalglish. But who plays, it doesn't really matter. I would like to see David Hay used as the anchorman in midfield, and if three midfield players are used in midfield, then any one or two of those can go forward to support Jordan and Lorimer.
Very briefly, Sir Alf, for 11 years, I suppose, a lot of journalists tried to put you on the spot and get you to make a forecast, but can I try and do it now? Do you think Scotland will be one of the two teams to qualify from Group 2?
I think I've already said that I prefer Brazil and Yugoslavia, but if in football you've always got a chance, and I believe if they can formulate this understanding and determination and get their game together and reproduce the form that they showed against England, they will make Yugoslavia and Brazil fight.
Sir Alf, thank you very much. Let's hope the Scots can do that. We take a break now, and after it we look at other aspects of the World Cup, the players to watch out for. Will there be violence on the field? Will there be a fairy story there? And how can you get involved with the ITV World Cup production? But that's the end of the first part, where we've asked the question, can Scotland do it?
I'll put my bait in them anyway. I'll put my bait in them. Right.
And welcome back to this special ITV guide to the 1974 World Cup. And we start this second half with a look at some of the players who we think will delight you with their skills and flair over the next 3.5 weeks. Each of 11 nations can name 22 men in their squad and must now stick to it, of course, which means that 352 highly trained footballers are now waiting for the off. We've chosen just 7, an ITV 7 for the World Cup, if you like, who we believe have something special about them. And with Brian Clough, we'll tell you why. Number 1 is Johan Cruyff of Holland, perhaps the world's greatest footballer, certainly the world's most expensive. He cost £900,000 when he went to Barcelona. Cruyff is 27.
Everybody knows about Cruyff. Why do they know him? Because he's one of the most talented players in the world. That was just a little chip, or it appeared to be just a little chip, but it was right in the path of his colleague who sticks it in the back of the net. Here's another instance, exactly the same position, left flank. Watch how he turns this defender round. Very tight ball control there. Looks up, and another little chip. The ball actually stops dead in the penalty area. It was timed to such perfection. All great players make things look easy, and he makes them look easier than most. An example now of how he scores goals. A long cross in, a looping cross, hemmed in by 2 defenders. He gets up, he's not the biggest of centre forwards, and he plonks that in the back of the net as good as Tommy Lawton could have done it.
Number 2, 24-year-old Ruben Ayala of Argentina, sent off while playing for the Spanish club Atletico Madrid against Celtic. If there's a question against his temperament, there's none against his skill.
This is Ayala receiving the ball up the right-hand flank against England. A beautiful dummy there, change of pace. Took it round Dave Watson there, looks up and crosses a good ball. Shades of the Poland match here for Shilton, gets his hand to it, didn't quite knock it away, and it's popped in the empty net. Here's another example. The film, mind you, reminds me of the Keystone Cops of a few years ago. Long cross, knocked back into the goal mouth, and there's Ayala there jumping up. Not too difficult chance to stick in the net, but he was in a good position. Here he is scoring another goal. The ball's laid up to him, and watch how he resists this tackle. Retains his balance, looks for the return, takes it into the penalty area, and as the goalkeeper comes out, he slips it in the net. Makes it look a bit more easy than it was. There he goes away with his hair trailing in the wind, and I've got visions of that being pulled back in the World Cup.
Number 3, it's Italy's goalkeeper Dino Zoff. He's not conceded a goal in Italy's last 12 internationals. Cruyff himself says Zoff is the best in the world, now 32 years old.
I certainly wouldn't argue with Cruyff about that, because I believe this is the man that knocked Derby out of the European Cup in the semi-final the season before last. Look at him training and the work he's putting in. But you've got to work hard in training when you don't concede goals like he doesn't. And this is very, very hard work. Listen to him pounding on that turf. Listen to him breathing very, very hard. Normal, typical Italian training. On the line goalkeepers they are, and they rely an awful lot on agility. This is against Derby at Derby in the semi-final. Watch how he picks these balls up, coming through a crowded defence. Parries this one from Ronnie Webster and picks it up beautifully. Another one's from a free kick. On the edge of his 6-yard area, palms it round the post, a beautiful save. The other one's from John O'Hare, first timer from John O'Hare here. Parries it, that's why he keeps clean sheets.
Number 4 is Kazimierz Denia of Poland, one of the big reasons why England are not in the World Cup this time. A gifted midfield player and a scorer of spectacular goals. He's 26.
This is against Holland. And Tom Finney would have been delighted with this close control. Watch him there, resist that challenge. It could have been said he was lucky, but he wasn't lucky. He does it all the time in the box, and he slipped the ball back to his colleague. Here he is scoring what I consider one of the best goals I've ever seen. He's got his back to the defender, he's already looked where he is, takes it past him, and then we see a moment of magic. The poor goalkeeper just didn't know what to do. Here he is scoring a goal with a free kick just outside the penalty area. This wall was a disgrace, and he can expect better walls in the World Cup, but there it is on target, another goal for Denia.
Number 5 is Joachim Streich of East Germany. Their answer to West Germany's Gerd Müller. In fact, they call him the Red Müller. Scored a brilliant goal against England 2 weeks ago. He's 23.
Streich, what an apt name for a striker. Here he is, heading the ball in the 6-yard area. Goalkeeper perhaps should have cut it out. He didn't, it's in the back of the net. Here's another long ball from his colleague. Perhaps should be a defender's ball. Certainly the Belgians are happy about it. He gets a lot of power there and surprises the goalkeeper, and he can only parry it into the back of the net. His next one, I feel, is the best one, against England. This ball comes a long way. Lindsay makes a mess of it. He controlled it beautiful, and he puts it in the back of the net as though he's playing on the sand with his children. Clements had no chance.
Number 6, Franz Beckenbauer of West Germany, 28 years old and as near as we shall get to a complete footballer in this World Cup. A record number of 77 caps for West Germany.
Franz Beckenbauer, the most talented defender in the game, in my opinion, in the whole world. Here he is receiving the ball there in his own inevitable pace, swerving past the player, and this is where his magic comes now. He plays the ball spot on to a sixpence. The centre-forward's pulled down, a penalty, down to Beckenbauer. Now watch him again here. He's literally at walking pace. Nothing on, because he's looked around. Like all great players, he decides to create himself. And don't forget he's a defender. Stanley Matthews would have been thrilled with this close ball control into the penalty area. A bad player now would hit the ball, but not this fella. He wants to make sure. In the back of the net. Another goal for Franz Beckenbauer, showing more skill as a defender than most forwards.
Number 7, Roberto Rivellino, the Omar Sharif of the World Cup. And for Brazil, he'll be wearing the famous number 10 shirt of Pelé. Rivellino is 28.
Rivellino, one of the heroes of the 1970 World Cup. Free kick specialist, Czechoslovakia in that competition. Beautiful shot there. The goalkeeper got his fingers to it, but couldn't stop it going in the net. Here's another one against Bâle a few days ago. Just touched by a colleague here. A good shot on target and going with plenty of pace, but I do feel the goalkeeper perhaps should have got it. He moved a little bit late there. He's in midfield, of course, this time, and I don't think he'll get away with this type of thing. Sells a nice dummy here, but I've got visions of him being stuck on his backside in the World Cup. Another defender should have come, but he gets his shot in. The goalkeeper doesn't move again, and it finishes in the back of the net. We've showed you 7 players, all skillful.
7 to watch then in the next 3.5 weeks. ITV's World Cup 7, Johan Cruyff of Holland. Ruben Ayala of Argentina, the man they call the Little Mouse. Dino Zoff, the incredible Italian goalkeeper. Kazimierz Denia of Poland. Joachim Streich of East Germany. Franz Beckenbauer, Kaiser Franz of West Germany. And Roberto Rivellino, known to his Brazilian teammates as Bullet. But of course it would be quite foolish and quite misleading to suggest that skills and thrills alone will shine out of Germany between now and the final on July the 7th. Because alongside the good guys, there'll be the tough guys as well. In a climate as fierce as it's going to be in Germany, where the bonuses for winning really have shot sky high of late. The Italians, for example, are said to be on £24,000 a man if they win the World Cup. Violence on the field, I think, could just be one clumsy tackle or a bad decision away. It would be naive to suggest otherwise, but equally it would be true to say that referees have never faced a more difficult or important assignment for the good of football. Tackling like this must be severely punished. First of all, it's the Argentinians in stripes against Holland, and Cruyff is the target there. Call that a professional foul. I think that should be renamed a cheating foul, which is really what it is. Cruyff, again the target of some very harsh Argentinian tackling. I think the Dutchman here in the plain shirt makes that tackle look worse than it is. Another problem for referees has got to differentiate between the con men and the hard tacklers. The Uruguayans in the slightly darker shirts really getting in there very toughly indeed against the Australians. Look at this for a challenge there. Watch out for this, referees, and for that as well. Yes, it's all pretty violent. There, Jackie Charlton. You've played in 2 World Cups for England. Do you suspect that this might be a violent World Cup?
No, I think it'll be a well-controlled World Cup. I think there's been too much publicity on it for it to get out of hand. But I think we're going to see the odd tackle like that. They were great.
Why do you smile when you see those sort of tackles?
Well, I don't believe them, really. You know, in England...
I tell you, I bet the fellas that are inflicted, that get those tackles and find that they got wheels right up their shins, I bet they believe in them.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, I don't believe them, not in the sense that you're talking about, but they don't happen in this country quite as bad as that, you know, where you blatantly set out to go past the ball and take a man out of the game and really head him.
But in this country, we've got an example here of Jim Holton, who's playing for Scotland
but I think
against West Ham in the light
more
shirt.
enthusiasm in the state of the ground and sliding through than actually setting himself up to get it. You see, I mean, I don't think Jim really went to get the man in the way that the Uruguayans went him. They don't care whether they get him And some of those tackles, whether they got him foot, knee or thigh high, it didn't really matter.
Bobby Moncur, do you think the Scots have got a hard man?
Well, no, I don't think I've got any particularly hard man. Big Jim obviously is going to get a little bit told, not because he's particularly dirty, but because I think he's sometimes clumsy, and I think he could run into trouble that way. I would think if anybody, David can look after himself without being dirty, and I think every side's got to have somebody who's capable of looking after himself. But I don't think Scotland's got any worse or harder players than any other country, in particular.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about the big bonuses. I mean, £24,000 a man for winning the World Cup is going to motivate a lot of people, I would have thought, in the wrong way. Does big money have that effect on players, do you think?
Well, I think if you ask any professional, when he goes out in the field, he goes out to beat the other team. And regardless of the money, you come off the field at the finish and say, well, we've done well, then you start thinking what you've done regarding money. But when you're on the field, you're only out there to beat the other side. You don't think whether it be £24,000 or £2, it doesn't make any difference.
Are you, hand on heart, you really believe that, Bob?
I honestly believe that, yes.
Do you believe that, Jack?
Yeah, I agree with him. You don't walk around.
You see, a lot of people say that money is motivating people the wrong way in the game, and particularly in the World Cup. You don't believe that?
No, I think it probably prepares them a lot more. I think they'll work harder at the game. But when you're actually playing, you don't run around with the idea that you're playing for a certain amount of money all the time. Otherwise, it would distract. It's almost total concentration to play a game of football nowadays, especially in a high level. Yeah, total concentration. So you don't have time to think of money.
That's right. I don't think you've got time to count your money in the field, believe me. You're just out there to try and beat the other side, and then, as I say, you realise when it's finished, you think, oh, great, and then you can count it. But you can't count it in the 90 minutes.
Maybe the last 5 minutes. Maybe if you've got 5 minutes to go and you're winning 2-0, you think...
You should know, Jack, anyway.
Great.
Right. Well, let's hope that the lads are right, that it won't be a violent World Cup, that the referees, in fact, have a good World Cup of their own. But the World Cup, I'm sure, is going to have its flashpoints somewhere or other, but it's also going to have its red-hot favourites. The West Germans, for example, are quoted already at 9-4 to win. But the World Cup will also have a touch of romance to it, often coming from the rank outsiders. We've already mentioned Zaire, but there are two other nations who tonight, I suppose, will be given no chance of success by anyone. Haiti, that little country east of Cuba, and Australia. No chance, they say, until you remember how North Korea toppled Italy in the 1966 World Cup and at one point led Portugal 3-0 before losing in the quarter-finals. Remember?
Seven more minutes. And Korea score through Peng Yin. The exhilaration of a goal by Pak Sun-yin in the first few by Yang Sung-kuk. And then miraculously a third. Korea 3, Portugal 0.
Derek Dugan, the dream didn't come to anything there because Portugal won it. But do the little people have a chance this time, do you think?
Well, being Irish, the romanticists and sentimentalists, I would like to see them doing very well. I think that Australia, for the one out of, say, comparing them with Haiti, I was there 2 years ago and played against the Australian national team on 2 occasions in 2 consecutive days. Manfred Schaefer, the German fellow, he's not a bad player, and Peter Wilson, but they've progressed so much over the last 20 years, Australian football. I'm delighted to see so many Aussie-born people in the squad. And I think, quite honestly, I would like to see them score 1 or 2 goals, but you never know. Some unknown's going to come through, like if we remember Petrus of Czechoslovakia in 1970. I wouldn't be surprised. I'd love to see them score 1 or 2 goals, but the Haiti side, obviously, there's unknown to me as Liverpool and... whereas unknown to Malcolm and Brian during the English Cup final.
We've got a couple of examples of how Australia can win matches, and one of them was the most vital one of all. This is the one against South Korea that took them to Germany. A beautiful goal it was, scored by Jim Mackay, who used to play in Scotland, there, with that shot there. We saw some very brutal Uruguayan tackling against the Australians a bit earlier on in this programme, but the Australians showed great willpower. They overtook it all and overcame it all, and there was a great goal by Bucks. But now you're going to see one of the most amazing goals you've seen in international. There goes Ollerton away. There's the Uruguayan goalkeeper in the centre circle, and Ollerton can hardly believe his luck as he runs the whole length of the field. There it is.
Absolutely amazing. But there again, you're actually talking about the point to Jackie and Bobby about the violence. It's incredible how the likes of Uruguay and Argentina have got this track record, and if they can keep that out, and if the World Cup this year is as exciting as it was in 1970, I think we're in for a feast for 3.5 weeks. I only hope so anyway. And I'd like to see little Haiti and Australia and Zaire score a few goals, because that's what the World Cup's all about, isn't it?
Does anybody here think that they're going to do anything? I mean, do you see a Zaire or a Haiti or an Australia doing anything? Derek has whetted our appetite for it.
We don't know. We haven't seen any of them. You know, we've we know nothing about Haiti, except that we know they qualified in a very difficult group, had a lot of games to play.
Yeah, they beat Mexico, I think.
And they finished beating Mexico twice, didn't they beat Mexico, who remember, did fairly well in the World Cup in their own country.
And that's no mean feat. There's a fellow there, I think, that plays for Haiti called Emmanuel Senon, and apparently he is the star player, 22-year-old. Apparently he's a very exciting player, 6 foot. But they all come over here. It's like the American boxers coming over here to fight our heavyweights. They all come over with a marvellous reputation, and they either they succeed or fall. And I'd like to see probably Haiti in Australia, because it's a great thing for the underdogs if they come through and do win, because it gives you great encouragement.
Well, we hope the other team don't. I mean, we don't want Scotland to get beat by Zaire in the beginning. Although I hope they do well against Brazil and Yugoslavia.
Well, I'd like to see Scotland beat Zaire about 7-3.
You were going to say something, Brian.
Well, it's just good for the competition.
Yes.
Every competition, every cup competition wants a shock. Stimulates everybody, it provides a lot of entertainment, and we just hope there's a shock in this competition, as long as it's not Scotland.
Exactly.
Yes.
We, in other words, don't hold out very much hope for Haiti and for Australia, and we hope not too much for Zaire as well. But we'll watch out, and we'll wonder if they can do something. We've really ranged far and wide in our search of what the world's top footballers can do for us. But now this is what we plan to do on ITV. Tomorrow at 3 o'clock, we shall have the opening ceremony, followed at 5 o'clock by the first match, Brazil against Yugoslavia. That is live. On Friday at 7, Scotland's first match against Zaire, again live on ITV. And on Saturday, a double bill, World Cup on the ball in World of Sport. That's at 3:10, followed at 4 o'clock by an interesting game there between Sweden and Bulgaria. And then at 6 o'clock, a real blockbuster, Poland, the team that put out England, against the Argentinians. How are they going to behave this time in their first appearance? Well, don't forget, all Scotland's matches are live on ITV. All Brazil's top matches are live on ITV. Indeed, every goal that's scored in the World Cup will be shown on ITV, maybe more than once as well. But how can you now take part in ITV's World Cup while you're sitting at home there watching us? Well, we've got 4 ways for you to get involved. First, if you fancy a bet, there's a thing called the ITV World Couplet. It's a bet offered by all the leading bookmakers, and it's based on selecting the correct score in 2 matches which you can see on ITV. For example, the first World Couplet is based on Brazil against Yugoslavia tomorrow and Scotland against Zaire on Friday. And Big Mal, who's a pretty shrewd gambler, has had a crack at it, and he fancies Yugoslavia as a 1-1 draw and Scotland to beat Zaire 3-1. Well, if Malcolm is right, this is how the bet works, with the current betting supplied by the Sporting Life. Brazil are 9-4 to get 1 goal. Yugoslavia are 6-4 to get 1 goal. Scotland are 4-1 to score 3, as Malcolm says. And Zaire are 11-8 to score 1. All 4 scores correct. And in betting terms, you've got a Yankee, that's 6 doubles, 4 trebles, and an accumulator. And based on 10p units, Big Malcolm would pick up £28.71p. It's a bit of fun, and even with 2 or 3 of the scores correct, you've money to come back from the bookmaker. And if you can do that bet, of course, with all the leading bookmakers. The second way for you to get involved with our coverage is to have a go at our World Cup roll-up. That starts on Monday in our early evening show at 5:20 in most regions, and I'll be asking you questions based on action that you'll see during the World Cup, and there'll be 4 questions every week. One Monday, on Tuesday, on Wednesday, and on Thursday. There's a £20 cash prize every night, and there's a chance to roll up for 4 answers and to go for the week's top prize of £80. There's a chance, too, for you to talk to the panel as we present our World Cup phone-in every Sunday afternoon. So if you fancy exchanging views with Brian Clough or with Big Jack or any of the lads, indeed, be with us on Sunday at 2 o'clock. And fourthly, there's our post bag. If you see or hear anything that intrigues you during the World Cup, you'll want to talk to us about it, drop us a line at this address. It's World Cup Letters, London Weekend Television, London SE99. Let me give it to you again. World Cup Letters, London Weekend Television, London SE99. One last and vital question, since nobody on our panel believes that Scotland will win the World Cup, a sad but realistic answer to that very first question of the night. Let's go quickly through the team and ask who's going to win the World Cup. Let's start with Paddy Crerand up there.
I fancy West Germany, Brian.
Malcolm?
I've changed my mind, Brazil.
Brazil. Brian?
I'm sticking to West Germany.
I think it's going to be a repeat of 1970. I think it's going to be an Italian-Brazil final with Brazil coming out on tops.
Bobby?
Italy.
Jack?
West Germany.
Sir Alf has already gone to Germany. He says it's going to be West Germany. My money is on Holland and Johan Cruyff. We shall see, though. Don't forget, join us for the opening ceremony at 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, followed at 5 o'clock by the opening match between Yugoslavia and Brazil, the team that won football's greatest prize back in 1970.